Hi everybody! Today we're going to talk about campers, specifically the amazing Airstream Trailers. As you guys know, we have been camping for a couple of years now. We started out with a super tiny camper and then we upgraded to a slightly bigger one after we had Max. We needed space for him and his nursery stuff and all that kind of good stuff. So we're going to specifically look at 14 things you need to consider before you go out and invest in an Airstream trailer. It's a special kind of camper trailer and we hope to provide some good value for you so you can make a better decision after watching this video. All the content I'm going to share with you in this video you can also find on our blog if you go to GoDownsize.com/Airstream. I'll put the address below. So the first thing you need to consider is how much can you actually tow with your vehicle. Maybe you're using a truck, maybe you have an SUV, and this is something that tends to trick people a little bit about the Airstream trailers. Because they have this aluminum case and the aerodynamic shape, they look lightweight, but they're actually heavier than other types of RVs. We recommend you buy an RV that is only up to 80% of the capacity you can tow with your vehicle. The reason for this is that you can easily add another 10 to 15% of added weight as soon as you start throwing stuff into the vehicle. People like to bring stuff like bikes, barbecue, propane tanks, rope safety equipment, pots and pans, and lots of other stuff. So after you add all that extra weight, you're probably gone up like 10 to 20%. And you also want to be able to drive uphill. You need to be able to accelerate after you attach the RV to your SUV or truck. So just make sure you don't go all the way up to the limit, because that will just give you a very bad driving experience on the road. The next thing we want you to consider is whether you should rent an RV before you buy one. Last year Maria and I went up to Oregon to rent a tiny house for a couple of days, just to get a feel for it and see if this was something we could do. After spending a few nights, we were totally convinced that this was something for us. We could do it long term, we could do it short term. It's just a very nice thing to know before you go out and invest maybe $50,000 in an Airstream trailer. And the next point is about how big an RV do you need. You need to think ahead 3 to 5 years maybe. When we first bought a tiny camper, we didn't think about that we were going to have a kid one day. So after we had Max, we needed to buy a new one. So you need to consider if you're having a kid one day, maybe you will need a bigger kitchen, maybe you have some allergies, maybe you have some special needs. So just make a really good list of how your life could look like in 3 to 4 years from now and take all these things into consideration. And then you need to consider, is it really worth the money? The Airstream trailers are not cheap camping trailers. They are expensive. They have this nice finish and you really pay a lot for the design. So you need to make sure that this is really what you want. But the good thing about the Airstream trailers is that they do not depreciate as much in value as other camper trailers. You can find old vintage Airstream trailers that have kept the price pretty well. According to Dave Ramsey, a normal car will lose around 60% of its value over the first 4 years. This is not the case with the Airstream trailers though. They tend to only lose like maybe 30% of the value. And then after 4 years, the curve flattens a lot. So if you take good care of your Airstream, you will have an asset that you can actually sell later. And that's a good thing. If you need the money at some point, you can always sell the Airstream. There are always a lot of people out on the look for a nice vintage Airstream. If you want to make sure you have the highest resale price on your Airstream, you should probably just buy a basic model. What you consider a very nice upgrade might not be what the next owner consider a nice upgrade. So go for a basic model and then it probably won't depreciate as much. And now that we talk about vintage trailers, you could also consider buying a used trailer yourself instead of a new one. The old vintage campers are super nice. And if you haven't got the money for a new camper, we would definitely advise you to buy a used one. As you guys know, we are big fans of being debt-free. That's some of the best thing that ever happened to our family. So don't go into debt over buying an Airstream. They are expensive and you can probably get a much better deal if you buy a model that's 2 or 3 years old. And when you get an Airstream camper, you need to be ready to spend some time on maintenance. It's not your average RV, it needs to be waxed on the exterior, and you also need to check the roof once in a while. We've heard a lot of stories about even new Airstreams leaking from the roof, and that can really be frustrating. Our first camper had a leaking roof and we couldn't figure out how to fix it. And that can be so annoying when you are out camping, far away from families and friends, you have nobody to help you, and if you can't fix a leaking roof yourself, that's gonna be a problem. So before you take your whole family out into your nice big Airstream, make sure the roof is not leaking, and if you buy a used one, just make sure it's waterproof. And now that we're talking about leaking roofs and stuff like that, let's talk a bit about the warranty on the Airstreams. When we started researching this online, we found that a lot of people do not recommend getting the extended warranty from the Airstream company. The reason is that a lot of the things inside the Airstream is not covered from the warranty anyway. There's things like the tires, batteries, kitchen appliances like the refrigerator, the stove, the microwave, the generator, the furnace, and the slide out mechanisms if there are any of those. So it's probably not worth the money. Just save those money so you have them if any problem occur. And now let's talk a little bit about the winter season in an Airstream. Can you go winter camping with an Airstream trailer? Yes, you can. But as you would expect from a tin can, it's not very good insulated. And you would have to burn through a lot of propane, so be prepared for that. You will need to be hooked up, and you will probably also need to stay away from camping in the wild. Especially if you go up north, you wouldn't want to get surprised by a storm. So the last tip we have is to visit a camper trade fair. We did so a couple of years ago, and it's just so nice to be able to walk from booth to booth and see all the different sizes and brands lined up next to each other. We went into one camper after another and find out exactly what we want to get. Even though we were not on the lookout for a new camper, we got so much experience from just seeing all the features and comparing prices and see what you actually could get inside an RV. And the Airstream company will probably have a pretty big booth if you're going to a camper trade fair. So you can talk to the guys, you can get a feel of all the different 9 models. That would be our suggestion. If you want to read more on our tips about Airstream trailers, go to the link below where we have done a ton of research, and all the things we've gone through will also be pointed out in further detail in this blog post. Thanks. Bye!